there, everyone. This is Dave Dubeau with another episode of the Property Profits Real Estate Podcast. And today it is my pleasure to be interviewing Tony LeBlanc all the way from Moncton, New Brunswick. And Tony is, congratulations, Tony, a brand new author. As we're doing this recording, his newest book. Let's see a look at the cover there, my friend. We got one handy?
I do, of course.
One. There we are.
There we go.
Doorpreneur, his latest book, Doorpreneur, has been hot off the presses for the last, 2 weeks, I think he said?
Yep.
Awesome. So welcome to the show, Tony. How you doing?
Thank you, Dave, very much. Very good. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Tony. So we're going to be talking a lot about your book, Doorpreneur, which I think is an awesome title. So hats off.
Thank you.
But before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what your main focus in real estate investing is right now.
Sure, pleasure. So I'm a second generation property manager. So I've been around apartment buildings my entire life. I grew up from the age of when I was born to 16, and we lived in the same apartment building here in town, and where my mother was the resident manager of the apartment building. And she was also the VP of the management company that owned the building. So I've literally been around this business for so long. I grew up taking care of the hallways, dealing with tenants, all that stuff. It was ingrained in me. And I also was lucky enough to get some mentorship very early on from the owners of that management company. And I kind of got a taste of what it meant to own real estate. That started very, very young, which I now look back and I was like, yeah, that's kind of probably where this all started.
Very cool.
I didn't get started in the industry immediately. I've actually, my first love was technology. I had a 15-year stint with IBM as a software engineer, and loved every minute of it. I got to travel the world, got to see a lot of different things and work with some of the biggest companies in the world. However, the last few years, the traveling was getting a bit much. I had a family, 2 small kids, and it was getting to be a little bit tough to be gone 3 weeks out of a month. So I decided I had to kick my entrepreneurial stuff in high gear in order to be able to exit that. So in 2009, I started my own property management company that still exists today. Fast forward. We're now in 3 provinces. We manage close to 2,000 doors, and we've been able to spin off 6 additional service companies that are attached to the management company. And most recently, I've now bottled that all up into a book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So before we jump into the book, which I definitely want to focus on primarily, are you also investing in multifamily properties yourself?
You bet. I bought my first triplex when I was 23.
Nice.
And I was up to about 40, 50 units at one point. Now we got, I think we're down to 27. So still always investing.
My friend.
Yep.
That's pretty good. Are you primarily in and around Moncton, or where are most of your personal properties?
They're all in Moncton.
All in Moncton. All right. Yep. You know, I'm embarrassed to say I've not visited your beautiful province yet. I know I've been to Nova Scotia, but I haven't. You know what? That might be a fib. I might have passed through part of it, but I haven't spent any time there, and I need to rectify that. That's for sure. I've heard nothing but great stuff.
I'm telling you one secret, and for your listeners, that if you have a lot of listeners out in BC, the East Coast is a gold mine and a little gem for those guys in the West Coast because of our pricing. Our door economics here are it's a different world from BC or even in Toronto. So I would say out of 120 investors that I manage for, I'd probably say 50% of them are from BC.
That's incredible. Well, it makes sense, right? Because I mean, the property prices are crazy. But let's jump into Doorpreneur, because with your background, with your history, the fact that you grew up in this business and just as a kid were active in it, it just seems normal. You know, what petrifies a lot of us as real estate entrepreneurs is the whole idea of dealing with tenants and toilets. We kind of have to do it. You've been doing it. It's second nature to you. It's no big. You've seen, I'm sure, everything under the sun.
I have
possibly happened.
I have,
and it doesn't scare you. No. So let's jump into that. Let's talk about, well, I don't know what we want to call it, doorpreneurship, but basically the idea of of managing our properties, maximizing the revenues that we can get from our property. So tell us a little bit about that. And you know, we were talking off camera about some of the cool stuff that you do that most property managers don't think of, or most real estate entrepreneurs don't think of when it comes to, you know, really maximizing revenues from their business.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the whole, I definitely agree. There's definitely a if you want to call it a stigma, I guess, with the general population in terms of what property management is, what it stands for, and how it's viewed. It's definitely a challenging industry because you're dealing with two things that are incredibly sensitive to people. One is their homes, and two is you're usually dealing with somebody's retirement investment. Like it's an asset that is very, very important for this person on the other side that you're dealing with. So whether if you're, so that's from a third party.
Yeah. So you basically got two customers you're dealing with, right? You got the owners of the building, and then you've got the tenants.
Yep.
And you got to try and keep both parties happy.
And they usually both want different things. That's the challenging part. So to be able to balance and keeping these two happy, sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes oftentimes it all works out in the end. However, they are usually one wants this and the other one wants the opposite.
Of course. Right?
One wants higher rents, does not want higher rents. Yeah. So you got to kind of manage that stuff. With regards to the Doorpreneur way, in terms of, let's say, an owner that has investment realty or investment properties, and they manage it themselves. There's whether if they manage it themselves or they're working with a third-party property manager. There's a lot of ways, and the way that I look at property management is it's a platform. So you manage these properties, and you have access to a lot of different ways to provide service to your clients, whether if that's your investors or that's your tenants. You have a lot of different ways on both sides. So if you're an individual that has acquired some real estate over time and you're managing these yourselves, then my recommendation is to not just look at the rents in terms of the income that's being generated from your assets, but also look at other possibilities to where some new income and some new things that can be created. Also, you can also, look at different ways to save money, whether if it's doing a lot of stuff yourself versus subbing out. That's where it gets a little bit different versus third-party property management.
Okay, so let's take a look at that. Show us a picture of what a typical property management outfit looks like, and then show us what you've done differently and, the Doorpreneur way.
Yep.
And what kind of impact that's had on you and your businesses.
Yep. So a typical management company is going to be, I would say, a couple hundred units under management is like a typical size. It's even rare to see somebody managing over 500 units. They manage the properties. They'll manage the accounting, which is very typical in every management company. And they're going to handle the leasing component. That's usually what you get for most management companies. And oftentimes it can be a great service, and they'll sub out the rest. So something that's very close to us is maintenance. Oftentimes the landscaping environment, the snow removal, and all the kind of side things that need to be done within the management company. There's a lot of people that either don't have the expertise or maybe not even the desire to go in and to take care of this stuff. So it's easier for them to just sub it out and work with all these contractors.
Right.
Then you have other management companies where they're also salespeople. So they're realtors, they're licensed. Mm-hmm. Not every province in Canada, and as well in the States, I believe, you don't necessarily need a license to do property management. Here in New Brunswick, you don't. I know some places out west, you do need a real estate license, but here we don't. Mm-hmm. So you'll see some property managers get their license so they can buy and sell real estate for their investors. A great thing to do to help with your bottom line.
Right.
Then there's the third level, which is I call the Doorpreneur model, to where you have a property management company with a large book of assets. Basically, once you control these assets, you then get presented with a lot of options and a lot of different opportunities. And if you grow it to a substantial size, a lot of new things starts to pop up. Opportunities in your maintenance divisions, whether if you want to get into a side business of landscaping, snow removal, plumbing, electrical, you name it, you can essentially look at it. the way that we did it was about 5 or 6 years ago. We grew the company from 0 units to about 1,000 doors.
Wow.
in less than a couple of years. And then we got looking at it. We're like, what else can we do here? Are we leaving any money on the table? Are we giving the best service possible to our owners and our tenants by having all these outside tradespeople come in and do this work? Do we have good control of it? And unfortunately, a lot of answers were no. So that's when we spun off our first division, which was landscaping and snow removal. And we started off with our own portfolio, kind of cut our teeth in that world, perfected it. And then the ultimate strategy in the Doorpreneur model is to then open that up to the general public. So now I am running a real full-fledged business that happens to service my portfolio that I control, but also does general public work. And I shared with you earlier, for us, that has just completely changed our world, because after 3 or 4 years, the size of that company has now eclipsed the size of our management company.
And that is so cool, Tony, because I don't have very much experience myself with property management. That's one of those things but I know a couple of several actually property management people, and the business it's pretty slim. The margins are pretty slim for a typical property management company. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but depending on the size of the properties, you're looking at the 4 to 8% range of gross rents is kind of what typical property management fees are. Maybe 10% if they're managing single family homes, but that just multiplies the pain in the ass factor of that. So it's pretty skinny, especially once you take into account your overhead, paying for your employees, your insurance, all the stuff that goes along with that.
Yes, sir.
So adding on a whole new division, and then starting off with your own pool of clients, you've got a built-in demand right there, and then spreading out from there seems really, really smart. But it must have there must have been a lot of learning curve.
Oh boy.
This brand new thing, right? It's a whole new business.
Yeah, that's another hour-long podcast. It was the first year was a lot of pain, a lot of figuring out. We made some good moves, we made some great moves, and we made some poor moves. So yes, there's definitely a learning curve. You're starting a completely new business that you have to learn the ins and outs on.
And employees
absolutely.
And all that stuff, right?
Yep. Yes.
So how long did it take you to get you were managing about 1,000 doors.
Yep.
That's when you decided to do the in-house landscaping business, right? You started with your 1,000 doors that you were already managing. How long did it take to grow that business to where it matched your property management business or even surpassed it?
About 3 years.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah. And the first year was it was a slow, because it was really just us. And probably the first year and a half was just our own properties. We had to be able to perfect before we went out to the public.
You were cutting a lot of grass then, my friend.
Yes, we were. And plowing a lot of driveways.
Plowing a lot of snow, yep.
Yeah.
But you got it dialed in. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So you started with the landscaping. Just to give people an idea, what are some other business opportunities that you could look at as branch businesses?
So I mentioned real estate sales. So I was not licensed till about 2 years ago. So I started the management company. For the first 8 years, I wasn't licensed. I originally came into this thinking that it would be a conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. And I'm eternally grateful that I made that decision, because it allowed me to build the management company to where it is today. And it's allowed me to now, where I have my license, I've got so many pre-existing relationships with so many different investors that literally buying and selling buildings have been basically a phone call. It's been that easy.
That just makes sense, doesn't it? Because you've got all these owners that either want to buy more stuff for their portfolio or they want to sell off their portfolio. Who better to go to than to you, right? Plus, I'm sure a lot of these can be pocket listings because you already know who the end buyer ideally probably would be, right?
Yeah, it's very rare that I end up being on MLS. It's usually a private. I'll email a few people and it's sold.
So are you even looking for listings or real estate customers out of your pool? Are you even bothering much with that part of the business? No, it's just a bonus thing now.
Yeah,
right?
It's mostly internal. And plus I get a lot of people from BC, from Toronto that are inquiring. They're looking for stuff. And I'm completely biased when I'm going to say this. Who better to talk to than a property manager to get the skinny on what's going on in the local market?
Yeah, definitely.
I wear
a one-stop shop, right?
Yeah, I wear my PM hat first in terms of being able to provide people with the details of a property. And then if there's a sale to be had, or if they're looking to buy something, then we go into that discussion, and it's the very natural one. So
nice. All right. So we got landscaping, then you brought on the real estate sales.
So then we got into maintenance. We've had that one was kind of in there since day one. So maintenance is probably one of the biggest components of the business.
Yeah.
Commercial cleaning is a new division we started last year. So we do a lot of new construction. People that are building apartment buildings, once they're done, we send in a team to get it all cleaned up. So we do that anyway. So it's a perfect match. Appliance repair, plumbing. Another one that we're looking at, electrical we don't have that many requirements. Plumbing, 100%. Appliance repair, 100%. We haven't dived into the mortgage component. We're looking to stay more within kind of the services that directly have to do with properties. So we've also looked at roofing. It's more of a seasonal type thing, but we're kind of being a little bit more picky in terms of where we want to go.
So right now, how many different, what would you call them, divisions do you have right now going?
So we have 7 divisions across 3 provinces. So it's fun.
Brilliant.
Keeps us busy.
Stuff, yeah, that is fantastic. Okay, my friend, time flies when we're having fun, so we'll have to definitely have another little visit with you in a few months and cover the stuff we didn't cover today. But for those folks that they got that curiosity piqued, well, first of all, let me ask you a question. At what point do you think it makes sense to start doing this as a property management? So a lot of people listening to this, they might have 2 or 3 doors of their own that they're self-managing. This might seem like it just, that'll work good for Tony because he has 1,000 doors.
Yep.
If you were in that position, how would you look at this whole strategy?
There's got to be scale. There's got to be scale involved. So I think somewhere is probably around the 300 to 500 unit door count. It starts to make sense because without getting that type of traction, you got to get enough experience under your belt on the management side. Yeah. And the whole foundation of this is the management company. So your management experience has to be second to none for your owners and for your tenants. So you got to get that right first. Once you have the confidence level that you can now start branching out into other opportunities, then you can do so. But in terms of a specific door count to you actually want to start something else, I'm thinking in my head is around the 300 to 500 doors would probably a good spot.
I would think so, because by the time you're that big, you've got that many properties, you can, you've got staff helping you do the day-to-day management of the property management. That's when you can focus your attention on
and the biggest beauty about this is the whole thing is why it's easy for us to spin off these companies is because we have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
You can only get that infrastructure once you're a certain size. So we have a full-time CA on staff. I've got all my maintenance guys, my cleaning staff, my property managers, my resident managers. I have the team. So now I can reuse them for the different things that I want to be able to service.
And you can be so much more efficient because you can have multiple businesses under one roof too, right? So,
absolutely.
There are efficiencies of scales with bookkeeping and accounting and reception and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure. Makes sense. Tony, awesome stuff. People want to find out more about Tony LeBlanc and your book. What should they do?
Doorpreneur.com.
Doorpreneur.com. Love that title.
Yep.
Good URL as well, my friend.
Yes,
thank you so much for being on the interview. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Take care. Check out Tony's book, and we will talk to you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks very much for checking out the Property Profits podcast. If you like what we're doing here, please head on over to iTunes, subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. Be very, very much appreciated. And if you're looking to create a regular flow of inbound investor inquiries about your real estate deals, then I invite you to attend one of my upcoming live online demonstrations. And you can check that out at investorattractiondemo.com. Take care.